All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Kuf Beis, Mesechus Yevamos. So we got up yesterday. We did the Mishnah towards the end. So the Mishnah at the end, we described the case of they agreed, okay, we'll do Yibum. She goes to his house, and then after 30 days, she says, there was no bia, there was no yibum, get me out of this. So we're on 5 lines from the bottom, last sort of line. So man tanadat class and yamin mukim inish anafshe. Who is the one who is? In other words, we can even believe that a person for 30 days is suspected not to have relations. So Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Meir, he doesn't Rabbi Meir. The Tana is on a brayso. Tana is basulim. A person can have a claim, a basulim, that he was not with his wife, and if she's a beula, then he can claim, that he was not nivelos to her. We'll see that in this whole concept in the next Masechta. Kol shloshim yom, for 30 days, up to 30 days, he's believed that he was not nivelos with her. Divrei Rabbi Meir. That's the opinion of Rabbi Meir, which seems to agree with our Mishnah. Rabbi Yosi Omer Nisra the altar says no. If he was Nisra, then the altar lo Nisra after kama shanim. So he says no. If he was secluded with her, that he's not even believed to say lo nivalti, and if he was never Nisra, then even after many years, he can be believed that since we were never Nisra, we were never secluded together. There was never, there was no bia. So Rabba Omar Afilu Tema Rabbi Yosi Rabbi says if even if you say Rabbi Yosi ad kalam Rabbi Yosi Hasam, only over there only over there that he's not believed even for one day, because that was his arusa. He feels closer to Gispa right now. He feels warm towards her. About Eish Zachib, however, if it's his sister-in-law, then Mive is Buzzies Mino. Then perhaps he would be offset by her. He does not feel close, and he's embarrassed from her. And therefore, there is, even Rabbi Yosi would agree that perhaps even after 30 days of them living together, Yibum was never complete. And then we said, so back in the Mishnah, we said over there, so the Mishnah said that up to 30 days, we force him and says, you know what, 30 days, you got to go ahead and do chalitza. So Gemara says, go ahead and force him to go ahead and do yibum. So Rav says, and we mentioned this yesterday, she has a get in her hand. She's saying he was never nivelis to me, and he just gave me a get, and therefore I need to get out of this zika. I need chalitza. He's saying, no, I went ahead and we did yibum, but then I gave her a get and I divorced her, right? Because he's hoping if she was a chalutza, he can never be machzer his chalutza, so he can't go ahead and take her back. Because once you don't build your brother's house, you can never build it. And so maybe that's why, perhaps that his angle, why he would say, oh, no, we did yibum, and then here's their full get. And she says, no, that you never did yibum, and I want to be able to marry somebody else. So therefore, do chalitza. So if the woman says within 30 days, lo nivalti, bein shehu omer ba'alti, bein shehu omer lo ba'alti. So if she says within 30 days, right, nothing happened, and whether he says, no, I was by her, or he says, la balti, now we force him to go ahead and do chalitza. However, after 30 days, if this complaint comes, let's say after 2 months, she says he was lo nivalti, we request from him, we don't force him, we request him to do chalitza. And he Omer nivalti. If she says no, he was Baal. Who Omer lo balti. If he says I was not Baal, and she says he was, hareza yaitzi beget. Right? Then she goes out with a get because she is believed to say that nivalti. And who Omer baalti. If he says balti, he Omer is lo balti, and then she says no. There was no bia. Even if he goes back and says, I was not bail her, and therefore there was never yibum, sarich get the chalitza. We require a get and chalitza. So what do you see here? It says over here, sarich get. In other words, a get that was not given yet. You said that she had to get in her hand, but over here it seems to say that he requires a new get, but chalitza.
So she's more she's less credible than him in a way.
Well, it depends. If it's the 30 day, if it's more than 30 days, then there's a chazaka that there was bia. So therefore, that strengthens the argument of whoever says Baalti.
Okay,
So
you're
right. So in that case, but we see over here this Bryce say sarich get for chalitza. So it's a kash and Rav. Rav was explaining a mission that the get was biada. So Amar Ami tzricha chalitza in gita. What does it mean? It doesn't mean she needs a new get. She just means the chalitza with the get. Right? We need chalitza with the get. Right? Get chalitza means chalitza with the get. And Rav Ashi Amar, no, hasam get lezikaso, hacha get lebiyasa. Two different things. Two different types. It's not the same type of get. One is a get for the zika, to say basically I'm not going to go ahead and do yibum to you, and therefore chalitza is required. The other get is the type of get for marriage. So this is saying that this is a get for the bia.
Is writing the same?
I guess the writing will be different, right? The writing will be different, right? Okay. So Hanush, Shneim, both of them were, they came together and says, okay, yeah, the Rava, they said, okay, they never had bia, even more than 30 days, and they came before Rava, and they said, Amar Lahu, Rava. So Rava told them, Chotzula, Vishola, okay, Tigra, go ahead and do Chalitza, and you guys both admit there was no Yibum, there was no bia, even though it was several months, so therefore go ahead and do Chalitza, and now she's mutter to the Vel. So Rav Shrabi, Rav, I says we need a get and chalitza. In other words, we don't necessarily believe them that there was no bia during the 30 days. So there should be a get and chalitza. So Tanya, yes, well, indeed, if it does, if that's what's stated in the Brises we just saw, then there would also be a requirement for a get. So Boy Minei Hon Berei Rav Nachman made Rav Nachman. So Hon, the son of Rav Nachman, I guess that's his father. Sarosamau. So there were two Yavamas, there were two guys married to a woman, he died, and then one of them says, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do Yibum. All of a sudden, she goes to Yibum. After 30 days, the whole question of did the Yibum ever occur or not? So what happens with the Tzara, right? Normally, the Tzara says, okay, you're doing Yibum, today, so I'm going to be able to go ahead and get married tomorrow. So is her future on hold? Tzara Samau. No, just because we forced them to go ahead and do chalitza doesn't mean that we said that they were supposed to go ahead and do yibum. We trust that the yibum was performed, even though we require chalitza, right? Nevertheless, that's not instituted upon the tzara. That is only on the other one who claimed that the marriage was not ended. So it isn't necessarily one related to the other. Fine. Next case of the Mishnah. I'm just going a little quick because it's a long blot. Actually, most of the stuff we saw yesterday and tomorrow and the Mishnah on Amud Beis. But so let me just find it. So our Mishnah says yesterday we saw a woman who made Hanos Hanami Yavama B'Chayibalo. She made a neder against her brother-in-law. She couldn't stand him. She says, "I'll never benefit from him and never nothing with him." And then her husband dies. So we say over there, so we force him to do chalitza to her, right? And I was basically she couldn't have really foreseen that, and therefore the neder is more valid. So therefore we force him to do chalitza. Now. There were three types of women that, or three cases where a woman basically can have a claim, and then she can go ahead and she doesn't lose her ksuba, right? So is that ha'imeres tamei ani lecha? First case is a woman says she was married to a Kohen. She says she was violated, and therefore I'm forced because you're a Kohen. You're forced to divorce me, but I still want my 200 zuz. Right. The next one is Hashemayim beni v'necha. Right. The Hashem is between me and you. In other words, that she was married to an individual, and she says that basically he didn't have relations with her. So once again, she's able to go ahead and get her ksuva, and the tulani mina Yehudim, and also she basically has a neder that she would not be bayal with any sort of with any Jew. It's difficult for us. Rashi says tashrish kashala, right? And therefore, it's basically she's like an eines, and therefore she basically makes a neder regarding bia, and therefore she because it's difficult. So therefore, we do force him. We do say he has to get divorced, but we don't penalize her and take away her ksuba. Now, so then also the rabbi said, well, if we allow the woman to basically to make these claims and to be able to get divorced and get her money, maybe she has her eyes set on somebody else and she can't just divorce her husband on her own, right? The husband divorces, not her. So maybe she wanted to be with another man. So what do they do? So what happens in these three cases? If she says I was violated and I was married to a Kohen, we go ahead and make her bring proof. If she says that he didn't treat me appropriately, like a husband should be treating his wife, didn't have relations, right, with me. So then we say, Yasa derech bakasha, then we basically request from him to go ahead and treat her, right, that a way that a man treats his spouse, and not necessarily force him to divorce and give her a ksuba. And and then she says that she's forbidden to have relations with him. Yafir chelko, right? He can go ahead and be mayfair his chelek. In other words, that nether is off. He could be mashamish for her. However, she is still forbidden to other Jews, even if she gets divorced. If so in this case, she says that she's forbidden to all Jews. What about to her brother-in-law? So mi maska daita demais baila v'nafel kamei yavam. Do we say that basically just like her husband, right? It was intended for him, so he can be made for. So too was also her brother-in-law was on her mindset, and therefore, all right, demais, and therefore she would basically fall to him, and therefore. He could also be bail her the yavam just like the husband. Or do we say that the yavam is never on the mindset and he's separate than the husband? So Rav Omar yavam eina kabal. Rav says no. The yavam is like the baal. Ushmuel Omar yavam harehu kabal. No, or when her nether was made, right? Therefore, her yavam was treated just like her husband. So Rabbi Kavasi the Rav Mistav. It's more logical to say like Rav. Why? The Tanana is on a Mishnah. There's Hanami Yavama. If a woman makes another from a Yavama, B'chayi Balo while her husband's still alive, Kaifin Oiso Shayichlitz. Right? Then we go ahead and we force him to do Chalitza. Now, why is that? Because she didn't have it in mind. She didn't do it in order to get out of Yibum. We're going to say that that her nether wasn't her brother-in-law wasn't on her mindset. Bimisa, the maska daita, but if now in our case, if we do say that he was on the horizon, therefore he was on her mind, just like her husband. Bimisa, the maska daita, it should be mevakshim mebayle. It should be only a request, not kaifin. So our answer is no. The reason we made over there, right, that it wasn't on her mindset at all, is because she already had children, right? The only way for her to follow Yibum was for her children to die first, and then her husband to die. Right? But all of that, no, for them to die first and him to die, that she never even fathomed. So therefore we say basically it was unintentional with her yavam, and therefore in that case we'd force him to go ahead and do chalitza. But if she has no kids and she made that nether, then my mavakshin, and we only request of him to do chalitza because it was inappropriate for her to make that nether in the first place. So at the Tani Niskavna, right? By the fact that the Mishnah made another case that says if she intended for this, then we requested her to do chalitza, or we requested him to do chalitza. Right? Why would we say she's still married? Only when she has children, then it was unintentional. If she has no children, then really it was sort of on her mindset, and therefore it's only mavakshin. Ella shmamina loishna yesh labanim loishna labanim kaifina so karav shmamina must be whether she has kids or she doesn't have kids. Therefore, it was right. It was not on her mindset, and therefore we could force the husband, the yavam, to go ahead and do chalitza shmamina like Rav. So hadron loch beis shamai mazel tov. If she had that case when the nether was made, right? So then there's more of a reason to say she never had in mind to ask her yavam for Yibum because she didn't think she was going to fall to Yibum. But she would fall to Yibum if her kids die first and then her husband dies. All right, now your Mishnah. Mishnah says, so now we literally, I think almost every single case we saw in this Mishnah, we saw yesterday. Now, so let's break it down. Cheresh shenasa pikachas. A cheresh, a deaf mute that married so he married a normal woman, and I'll say normal as opposed to being a deaf mute, right? So cheresh nasa pikachas or pikach nasa cheresh, or a regular person, a normal person married a deaf mute. Im rasa laitzi yaitzi im rasa lakai mikai. Right? If he, even though this marriage is only derabanan, because the can't really isn't really fichal, so whatever we allow for that derabanan to be, we also allow that derabanan to go out. In other words, there can be divorce between those two, because the same way they got married, so too that's the way they get divorced. Just like it was done by Remiza, in other words, he couldn't speak it out because she's deaf mute. So too the divorce is the Remiza. Now. Pikeach, shenasa pikeach. If a regular guy marries a regular woman, then she becomes a deaf mute. Imratza yaitzi, if you can go ahead and divorce her. V'imratza, and if you want to yikayim, you can go ahead and stay with her. Nishtates, if she became crazy, lo yaitzi, we don't want him to divorce her because we don't want her in the streets because she's deranged.
It's all relative.
Nischaresh, who? Now, let's say he was the one who became deaf mute. Oh, nishtat, or he became crazy. And he can't go ahead and divorce her because he's no longer a bardas, and only a person who's a bardas can give a divorce. And what is the reason why if the woman gave a deaf mute, she can still get divorced, but if a man becomes a deaf mute, he cannot divorce her? And it's not similar. A man who divorces to a woman who gets divorced. A woman could be divorced whether with or against her will. But a man can only divorce a woman with his will, and therefore he needs das. And he Rabbi Yochanan ben Good Agada al Chareshes Sheisia Avia, that if a Chareshes, a deaf mute girl, was married off by her father, where her kedushin is midoraisa, Shehiyat Sabagat, that when she gets older, she can go out with a get, even though she's a Chareshes, she can go out with a get. So too, even in this case, that he can go ahead and divorce her. Now, next case. Now we're going to talk about Yibum and Chalitza. So Beis Achim, once again, we saw this earlier meaning yesterday, two brothers, Charesh. So now we're going to bring 6 cases over here. All of them include Derabanan marriage. In other words, one of the spouses, either he or she. Now, another thing to remember is a Cheresh, he or she cannot do Chalitza, because remember, there is Kriya, right, in Chalitza. So therefore, really they can't do Chalitza, but therefore, Midoraisa, you can't go ahead and do Chalitza. Now let's see.
Well, wait, the thing is that we know that the Kriya is not Rakeh.
Right, but we say that Cheresh cannot do Chalitza to a regular woman. Normally in that case, we say do Yibum and then divorce her. So let's see. If you have 2 brothers, they're both deaf. They're both deaf mutes. So now there's at least one deaf mute in the marriage, whether it's whether they both marry deaf mutes, or the shtei achas pikachos, or they marry 2 normal women, or the shtei achayos, or achas charesh achas pikachos, or they marry once again 2 sisters, one normal, one not. Oh, or the other side, beis achayos charesh, or the 2 women are the chareshas, and the shnei achas pikachos, they marry both either 2 normal guys, or the shnei achas charesh, or 2 deaf mutes, or the shnei achim echad charesh v'echad pikach, or one is a deaf mute, one is a pikach, another person. Hare elu paderos min achlitzim min iyum. Since the other one, when one of them dies, and that marriage is midrabanan because one of them is a cheresh or a chereshes, and the brother who's also married is a cheresh or chereshes because there at least is one deaf mute in that marriage. So therefore, the falling of Yibum falls midrabanan to a midrabanan marriage, but that midrabanan marriage is to the sister, achasisha. So therefore, both of them are part because however strong that zika is, it's as strong as that the other marriage was, and therefore there's no yibum chalisa. If they were right, so there's nothing required. Okay, now they're not sisters, right? They're just his deaf mute brother. You can assume he has to go ahead. He can't do chalitza, right? Because chalitza is not done, right, with the cheresh. So therefore, he marries her. If he wants to go ahead and then divorce her, then he can go ahead and divorce. Now, next case. You got 2 brothers. One is a cheresh, one is a bekech. And they marry 2 normal women. All right. So one deaf mute brother, one regular brother, married 2 normal women. Meis cheresh bal b'kachas. So if the one who died was the deaf mute, in other words, his marriage was only derabanan, right? So what does the other brother do who has a deraisa marriage, right?
But wait, which
So
one
Tate
is
say-
married to the
We just said.
Pikachas?
They both are.
Yeah, they both are in this case.
Wait,
There's no waiting. So there's only one cheresh. There's only one deaf mute in this case, right? So meis cheresh bal b'kachas, right? So so what is the full-fledged, since they're sisters? What is the full-fledged marriage do? So the zika derabanan gets thrown away because of the brother and sister, right? Shimon and his wife was deraisa, and therefore mishum achas isha. Now, meis pikech bal b'kachas. If the deraisa marriage, the husband dies, and now the sister falls to her brother-in-law, who only had derabanan marriage to her sister. Ma'yaseh cheresh bal b'kachas. Maitzi ishto beget. He can no longer go ahead, and since that zika is deraisa and his marriage is derabanan, so he has to go ahead and divorce his wife because she is the sister of his gukaso. So therefore, matzah ishto beget ve'ishes achiv asur liyala. But he can't go ahead and do chalitza with her because he's a cheresh. He can't go ahead and do yibum with her because she was midrabanan. She was achas isha, right? So therefore, asur liyala. So therefore, she's basically stuck forever. Fine. Next case. Shnei achim pikechim. If you have two brothers. Shnei achim pikechim. If you have two brothers who are normal, the sul l'shtei achayos, but now the sisters married two sisters. Achas charesh v'as pikech. One was deaf mute. The other one was normal. Meis pikech bal charesh. So if the one who had the drabanan marriage, in other words, he dies, and now the deaf mute falls to his brother. Ma'yaseh pikech bal pikechas. Teitzeh mishum achas isha. Since her sister has a valid marriage, so therefore she's pater because she's achas isha. Now, meis pikech bal pikachas. So if the strong marriage, the deraisa marriage dies, so she falls mideraisa to the brother who only has a derabanan marriage. So ma'yaseh pikech. So what does the pikech do about chareshes? Ma'yaseh ishta beget. He cannot go ahead and take her, so therefore he has to go ahead and divorce his wife. But he can do chalitza because he's a pikech and she's a pikachas.
So the original wife is not the chareshet, right? That's why you give her get.
This is the one who died in this case.
Right.
Was meis pikech bal pikachas, right? So the two normal ones, right? So right. So the Shimon's original wife. Now shnei achin. Now let's go. Two brothers. Echad cheresh ve'echad pikech. Now two brothers. One was a deaf mute. One was a pikech. The sun l'shtei achayos achas cheresh v'as pikachas. They also married a set of sisters. One was a deaf mute. The deaf mute is married to the deaf mute, and the pikech and the normal is married to the normal. Right? That we have. Now, what happens here? Meis cheresh bal chereshes. If they're the derabanan marriage, the guy dies. Since the siblings, right? Shimon and him and his wife have a deraisa marriage, so therefore the zika derabanan completely goes away because of achas isha. Meis pikech bal pikacha. But if the deraisa marriage ended with the guy dying, now the pikachas, the normal woman, falls to her deaf mute brother-in-law who's married to her deaf mute sister. Ma'yaseh cheresh bal chereshes. Maitzi as ishta beget. He has to go ahead and divorce his wife since he has zika deraisa. Right, but he can't do anything. He can't do yibum because he was married to her sister midrabanan, and he can't do chalitza because he's a cheresh. So therefore, she's aser for him. Shnei achim echad cheresh ve'echad b'keach. Two brothers, one deaf mute, one normal.
The normal wife, she's just
normal man.
yeah.
So we're applying the same rules. What do you mean?
She
require
chalitza?
No, she's absolutely elam. She had a full valid marriage. She has a full valid marriage, and she falls to the brother, but she can't do yibum or chalitza to the deaf mute. She can't do chalitza because he can't do chalitza, and can't do yibum because he's married to her sister. Now, next case. You have two brothers. One was a cheresh, one was a pikech. Now they married two women that were not sisters. Pikechas, both of them were normal. Meis cheresh val pikachas. So if the brother who was a cheresh died, so ma'yaseh pikech val pikachas. What is the other brother who has a full marriage? He's a normal person, and there's zika derabanan. He can go ahead and do chalitza. Or miyabim. Meis pikech val pikachas. But if the pikech right? He was on a diet ba'apikachas. Ma'aseh cheresh ba'apikachas. So what does the other one do? Kaines. Go ahead to marry her for Eina Mites in the other, but he can't go ahead and he can't send her away. And Eliel and Shnei Achin.
Which one? The Pikach to the
one that the one that was kindness, the one that fell to Yibum.
Right.
Now Shnei Achin Bikechim. If you had two brothers who Bikechim, they were normal. The Suas Lebei Nachrios, and they were married to Nachrios, right? They were married to two non-sisters. Achas because of Achas Chereshes. One was normal, one was not. Meis Pikach Bal Chereshes. If the one who had the Rabbanan marriage died, Ma'yasa Pikach Bal Pikachas. What can he do? Kaines, he can't do chalitza because she can't do chalitza because she's a Chereshes, but he can marry her. If he wants to divorce her, he can, because since he's a normal person, he can give a get. Earlier, he couldn't divorce her because he was not a bar das, right? He couldn't. He wasn't able to give her. However, he can go ahead and divorce her. But if the normal guy who was married to the normal woman, he died. What is the brother who's also normal but married to Chereshes? He can go ahead and do yibum or chalitza the woman, because remember they're not sisters, and therefore since she's a pikachas and he's a pikach, he can do chalitza or yibum. Shnei Achin, there's two brothers. Echad Cheresh, Echad Pikach. One is normal, one is not. And the Suda Lebei Nachrias, and they married two non-related women. Achas Cheresh, Achas Pikachas. So the deaf mute married a deaf mute, and the regular one married the regular one. Meis Cheresh, Cheresh. If the ones who had the Rabbanan marriage died, Ma'yas B'Gab Pikachas. What is the one who has the rice marriage about to do? Kaines, he can go ahead and he has to do yibum, right? Because he can't do chalitza because she's a chareshes, so he does yibum. If he wants to divorce her, he can because he's a bardas. However, however, if the one who was normal die, was the brother-in-law, the brother do, the one who is a deaf mute, he go ahead, he can only do yibum, and he can't divorce her because he can't give a get because he's not a bardas. Zok the Gemara. Real quick. Amar Rechama, Mashna Cheresh v'Chareshes, the Tingla Rabbanan Nesuin. What's the reason by a deaf mute that we say there is a Rabbanan marriage? And what's a Mashna, the Shaita, v'Shaita? But what about the case of two deranged individuals, male and female, that there is no marriage? We're looking at the Rabbanan Nesuin. Right? The Rabbanan they would not say if they marry each other, we say it's nothing. We don't say it's Kedushin the Rabbanan. We say it's nothing. The Tana and Rabbi says Shaita v'Katan. If a shota or a katan shenasu nashim, they married women, umesu, shem chlitzim chlitzim yibum, they are pater from yibum chlitzim because there is no marriage. Why? The charesh v'chareshes the kaima. So since the kaima the kanas the rabban takin le rabban nesuin, right? Shaita v'shaita the lay kaima the lay time to kanasa. But however, when it comes to a shota and shaita, there is no a kiyum there. Therefore, the rabban ain't. Why is that? Ein adam dar inachash b'kafifo. Because. Since they're I guess two deranged individuals cannot get along with one another, and therefore that will not survive, as opposed to that of a chareshes or a chareshes, then we say that would go ahead and survive, right? The Rabbanan were not mistaken Rabbanan kedushin for them. Now. Umayshna cotton, the Letikin Rabbanan and the Suan. So what about a cotton? Why the Rabbanan were not misakin for them? The Cheresh Techini Le Rabbanan, but the Rabbanan were misakin by a Cheresh. So Nesuan Cheresh the Loyasi Lechlal Nesuan Techini Le Rabbanan. Since a deaf mute will not eventually be able to have a deraisa marriage, therefore they said, you know what? You won't kill each other. You can go ahead and get married. However, cotton. But a cotton however, a cotton who eventually will be able to go ahead and marry the Rabbanan did not allow a kedushin the Rabbanan. So if a cotton wants to go ahead and marry a woman, a 9-year-old says, "Hey, Ari, I'm a Kodesh It's nothing. It's not even the Rabbanan." Let's get Rabbanan. Katana, the cloud. But what do you mean? Look at the katana, right? The cloud, the suin. She eventually will be able to get married. Particularly Rabbanan the suin. If the person that she's allowed to go ahead and get married, right? Chazal allow the mother or the brother to go ahead and marry her off. So awesome, over there we did it in order for her because people will not. If she's an orphan, she doesn't have a father who can marry her off. We don't want her to be people to be knowing her with minhag hafker. What's the reason why we allow a katana to do miyun? Why can a chareshes not do miyun? Dim kain. If that's the case, mimna b'loy nasila. Right? A person won't go ahead and marry a chareshes. If a chareshes can do miyun and uproot the marriage at any point in time, they won't do it. However, katana only a certain amount of years until she becomes a ketayla. So therefore, people won't refrain from marrying a katana. They'll marry her only 2 years. She can do miyun. But once to a chareshes, we don't allow her to just do miyun because no one will go ahead and marry in the first place, and we'll stop here. Shkoyach, everybody. Have a wonderful.